James, are you on?
I am.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because when I came on the link, I think it said that it was for SAP Stepo, and this is Larkey, but
Yeah, I don't.
yeah, as long as I'm on the right one, I am a little bit gun shy sometimes because every once in a while the links don't work quite right. But
Yeah, I took it off
okay,
the link that had been sent out earlier today, and there's Larkey coming on now. So
okay, well we got the important people here.
let's see.
All right.
Camera though. Oh, I know what's happened. My laptop is just closed. Okay.
Hi, Norman, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. We're still waiting for the other attorney for sure to get on, so it will be a few minutes yet.
Hey, Larkey, do you have? Is Patrick with you? Is he going to get on? Do you know?
I think he's getting on. He's not with me. I think he's getting on.
Okay, we'll wait for him to.
Okay, is that Patrick Corcoran?
Yeah, Patrick Corker.
Okay.
Gotta deal with Mr. Racine getting in, so I'm not going to be watching for a moment here.
For the court reporter, this is Patrick Corcoran, city attorney for the city of Belton.
Okay, nice to see you again today.
It's nice to see you too. I'm also going to be off camera this whole time, so.
Okay.
Well, this is back when we had a ladder truck, so this is older. This is pre you being on the board.
Marty, you are not muted. Just so you know.
Sorry. I think the others are having a hard time getting in, so we couldn't find the link.
And the person under the Marty, is that Sue again?
No, Sue Osterman. I'm on.
Okay, okay, you're on there too. Okay. And Marty is Marty Hardman?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Racine, let's see, we're seeing a entry for you, but the source that didn't have the camera that you were on earlier.
Assuming everybody can hear me, it looks like it's working now.
We
Okay,
got you.
we got you.
Great.
Are we
All right.
ready to get going?
You ready, Mayor Larkey?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes, yes.
All right, go ahead. The reporter will swear you in first.
okay. If you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you state your name and your current position, please?
My name's Norman Keith Larkey Sr., and my current position is the mayor of the city of Belton, Missouri.
And how long have you been mayor?
Since April 21, so almost 20 months, 20,
Okay.
21 months.
Can you just give us a general idea of what your fire service experience is? How long, where? Just kind of walk through that just generally.
Okay. I spent 25 years with the Kansas City, Missouri Fire Department, and I retired in August of 14 as the Deputy Chief of Emergency Operations. And I took a job same month as the Fire Chief of the city of Belton. And I was the Fire Chief until May of 2019. And then from January of 2000, or can't even think now, January 2020 to about October of 2020, I was the Assistant Fire Chief with the West Peculiar Fire Protection District.
With the what protection district?
West Peculiar Fire Protection District.
And did you also at one point have a position with the Western Cass District?
Yes, I need to do that too. So I'm trying to think of the dates. I can't remember the dates. I believe it was from November of 20 to sometime in February of 21. I was the interim fire chief for the Western Cass Fire Protection District.
And as the fire chief in Belton, do you work alongside the Western Cass Fire Protection District on at various incidents?
Yes.
How about when you were at West Peculiar?
No, never had a interaction with the Western Cass Fire Protection District when I was in West Peculiar. No.
And generally, how would you describe the competence and capacity of service delivery by the Western Cass Fire Protection District?
I'm going to object to the question. It lacks foundation, but to the extent you can answer it, go ahead.
I mean, that's a tough question. I think obviously it was a volunteer department, so it lacked, in my opinion, the education for their firefighters. I don't think they were trained as well as a paid professional fire department is.
So while you were fire chief in Belton, about how many times did Western Cass respond into Belton? That is coming on your turf, helping you.
I can't answer that. I don't have the knowledge of that right now.
Did it ever happen?
It did very seldom early on, and then it got to the point to where we didn't call them at all because they never would respond.
And how about Belton responding in Western Cass?
I don't have the numbers obviously in front of me, but it was every time we were called, we would respond. I don't have the numbers in front of me though.
Okay. So what is mutual aid?
Mutual aid, in my opinion, is an agreement between two jurisdictions that you will provide aid, mutual aid, when you're called upon, and when you'll provide it when they call you, and then when you call them, they'll come and provide it for you.
And the way that things actually worked over the last decade with Western Cass, or at least the time you were the chief. Was your relationship one with Western Cass truly mutual aid?
No,
Can I ask for clarification, Mr. Layton? Are you asking when he was chief at Belton, chief at Western
Chief
Cat?
of Belton, Chief of Belton. Yes. Is that,
Chief of
when you were-
Belton, no, it was not truly mutual aid in my opinion, no.
and how about when you were interim chief at Western Cass?
No, it still was not truly
So-
mutual aid.
So why not? What is it that was lacking to make it true mutual aid?
Firefighters to respond.
Is there some level of training that firefighters required to have to effectively respond in your view?
Oh, yeah, you need firefighter 1 and 2. You know, you need to be certified by the state, you know, to be a firefighter. And there's other certifications, but those are the two main basic ones that you need.
When you were the interim chief at Western Cass, did you have anyone certified as firefighter 1 or 2?
No, it was a short time and I was just helping them out because their fire chief had just quit. And I was called, asked if I'd come and help. And I said, yeah, I would for a short time, but I can't commit to it full time because I was getting ready to run for mayor for the city of Belton. I told them I'd give them as much time as I could. And they asked me to stay on for another month or 2 and I did, but I finally said I had to stop because of my campaign.
You know whether Western Cass has since then hired or gotten anyone who's a firefighter 1 or 2?
I can't answer that question. I don't have that knowledge. I don't believe so, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Just rumors that I've heard.
Either while or just after you were interim fire chief for Western Cass, did you do some kind of a needs analysis, some kind of summary of what the district needed to do?
Yes.
I want to show you, I'm going to share my screen to do this on here. I'm going to show you this document that we've designated as Larkey Exhibit 1. Did Mr. Corcoran send you a copy of this? This
Yes.
exhibit?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Have you seen that document before?
Yes, I have.
So what is it?
It is trying to think of the right word. It's a synopsis of my review of the Western Cass Fire Protection District when I was their interim chief. And they asked me to come up with a document on what I think their status is at the time and what I think they should do, you know, with how they run their district, their equipment, their buildings, and so forth. And so it's about a 4-page document. I believe it's not a lot of information, but it is a lot of information, and it covers, you know, their staffing and their command staff and their apparatus and their buildings and the finances at the time, and what I think. I gave them some options of what I think they should and could do, and that's basically what it is.
Do you recall who this was given to?
I believe I gave it at the time to the board president, which was Terry Magelson.
Did you ever appear before the board and discuss it?
I can't remember that. I don't remember if I did or not.
Okay.
I'm thinking I did, but I'm not 100% sure that I did. And you know, that was back during COVID and we were Zooming a lot. And so I can't remember.
Okay,
I'm thinking I did, but I'm not 100% sure.
all right. let's start with volunteers and staffing. What was your experience at Western Cass with regard to volunteers and staffing?
I'm gonna object and I'll make a standing objection, assuming well, I'll make a standing objection to anything about the district prior to the present time. And I don't know what the relevance of that is, so I'm gonna make a relevance objection. You can answer the question if you can.
Can
Go
you
ahead,
repeat, can you repeat the question, please?
What was your view as to the status of staffing at the time that you were the interim chief?
My view was not a lot. There was several volunteers. I think anywhere from 6 to 8. There was no leadership, no other than myself. No command structure. The volunteers, they would meet Thursday nights for training night, and then we would do some form of training. But none of them lived in the district, so it was a struggle to get anybody to respond to calls because they all lived 20, 30, 40 minutes away. So it was always a struggle to get any type of response.
In Belton, how far away did you let people live?
Objection is to relevance.
You go ahead and answer.
There is no time or mileage requirement for City of Belton firefighters.
Okay. I noticed the second, like the end of the second paragraph, talks about training young kids just to go get a full-time job elsewhere. You've been affiliated with a little bit with Western Cass, West Peculiar. Is that a common problem with these fire protection districts?
It is for the smaller districts and smaller cities. It truly is they can get a job with these smaller departments and they can get training and experience, and then they take that training and experience and go to the bigger cities, Kansas City, Independence, Olathe, Central Jack. That's a common practice.
So the last sentence of this section talks about the need to look at raising the operational levy. Why did you think they'd have to raise the operational levy to hire part-time employees?
Because the current levy that
Hold on just a second. I object to relevance, also to foundation.
Go ahead, you can answer.
So the current levy at the time, it was low and it only provided a small amount of money, nothing for part-time or full-time staffing. It only paid the current bills at the time.
And do you know whether they raised their operational levy since you were interim chief?
I don't believe so, no.
And then second, when you talk about a command staff, in a district the size of Western Cass, if they're going to operate on their own, that is not relying on Belton or somebody else, what kind of command staff would they need?
Again, I'll object to relevance and to foundation.
I believe they would need, some sort of company officers that would be in between the firefighters and the chief officer, and possibly even an assistant, some type of an assistant chief, for when the chief was gone or couldn't make calls. You'd always have coverage. But I mean, it was myself and, like I said, 6 or 8 volunteers, with none of them having any experience to be an officer at all. So.
And what's a training officer? That's the
Training
next sentence.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That's just the next sentence. What refers to a training officer? What's a training officer?
Training officer is an individual that his sole purpose is to train each and every firefighter. You know, train in fire suppression and, you know, every aspect of fire suppression.
Now, the next thing you talk about is the apparatus fleet. Engine number one, what was the condition of engine number one?
Engine number one was their newest piece of apparatus. It was, at the time, I think it was 8 years old. But at that time, we found out when I got there that they had never done any maintenance to engine one, you know, never changed the oil, never, you know, never did any type of maintenance to it. And I started that program, and it was, you know, like a $4,000 bill to do the maintenance on it because it hadn't been done in so long. So it was very expensive. It was somewhere around 4,000. I can't remember the exact number. And likewise, engine two, you know, 17 to 18 years old at the time, pretty good shape. But again, no maintenance was done on it. And I think that bill was about the same, of almost $4,000 to get that done. And those are the only two that I'd gotten to. The tanker they had, you know, it was 25, 26 years old. It was a huge vehicle. Needed a lot of work and needed maintenance. I hadn't gotten to that yet by the time I left. The two brush rigs they had were fairly new. You know, they were 1-ton pickup trucks with fire bodies, you know, on them, and brush units in the back that carry water and hose. They were in fairly good shape. The ladder truck that they had, it was 20+ years old, and at the time the board of directors had committed to selling it, so we weren't going to do anything other than get a ladder test done on it to make sure it was a viable ladder that would work. And that was supposed to happen sometime in that February. Either it happened after I left because I wasn't affiliated with it, and I know they called me to try to get it done after I had already been gone. And so I know they did it. I just don't know the outcome of it. And I know they sold that ladder after I left as well. And I believe they had another chief vehicle that they had, but we sold that while I was there as well, because they were committed to selling that chief's vehicle.
What kind of vehicle?
Chief's vehicle. It was an excursion that the chief officer, prior to me being there, he used that to respond in. It had a command center in the back, and he drove that. The chief officer did. But the district at the time was committed to getting rid of it because they didn't think they needed it.
Okay. So does the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, have standards that apply to these kinds of vehicles, this kind of apparatus?
Yes,
Check
they do.
Objective foundation.
Yes,
Mr.
they
Larkey, in your work as a firefighter for the city of Kansas City and the city of Belton, did you become familiar with NFPA standards?
Yes.
And were there NFPA standards for these kinds of apparatus?
Yes.
Are they still today?
Yes. They're constantly updated and changed.
Did these vehicles at the time that you were working with Western Cast, did they meet NFPA standards?
That's a difficult question. I would say some of them did, some of them didn't. Their recommendation is age. And I believe, you know, obviously the older ones didn't meet their recommendations, but the younger, newer ones did.
So
And there's whole bunch of other list of items that go into what is recommended and what's not recommended.
if they, is there some alternative to NFPA standards, some other kind of level that you were looking at when you were the interim chief to be sure these vehicles could do the job?
No, not to my knowledge. My main focus was trying, and take in mind, the NFPA standard is just a standard. It's not a, tell all. Obviously some departments can't afford to do everything the NFPA says that they should be doing. My main focus at the time was just trying to get them maintained and get them serviced, so they weren't, lacking in service. Like I said, that newer one was 8 years and it never was serviced at all. So that was my main focus in the short time I was there, was to get them serviced and get them up and running.
Okay. Now, you recommended here, as Eric said, look at replacing the tanker engine 2 and the brush squads units. Why did you think they should look at replacing those?
Because of their age and the amount of money it would take to maintain them and service them over each year far outweighs their usefulness.
And then you say the expense of the purchase would be $1.2 to $1.4 million. What was your basis for that estimate?
Past experience and conversations with fire truck dealers.
Okay. Let's turn to Fire Station 1. What condition was that in at the time?
Fair condition with limited, as I wrote, fair condition with limited space. It could be used as it was, probably a good overall cleaning. And as I put on here, it was cobbled together over probably 20 or 30 years to my knowledge. It obviously needed to have new heating and ventilation system. Some of the electrical and lighting systems needed upgraded or replaced, and it needed a complete paint job on the inside and outside. At the time, before my arrival, they were trying to make a system of bunks for firefighters to sleep in, and they hadn't finished that at the time.
Okay. And then you mentioned there needed to be some work on the street pavement of Rogers Street. What was the problem with that?
Yeah, the apparatus apron, which is right outside of the garage doors where the apparatus parked, that was concrete, and it went down to the road, and the road was asphalt, and the asphalt was pretty bad shape. So there was a 2 to 3 inch, probably 1 to 3 inch areas where the road was lower than the cement. And so every time the fire trucks would go in and out, it would cause problems to the road, to the cement, and to the apparatus, because it was a 1 to 3 inch drop.
And then go ahead.
I'm good, go.
Okay, and then there was a training tower prop. What was that? And
Yeah, training tower prop that they had built over the years, which I would say, I didn't check into it, but I would say that it probably did not meet NFPA standards at the time. It was a cobbled together, thing that they've done over the years. And understand that that's the only access that they had to something like that. So I can see why they used it. But, in the true spirit, I'm sure it did not meet NFPA standards. I'm not 100% sure on that. But
Fire station, you were what?
I would say that it did not meet NFPA standards.
Was it safe?
I can't answer that. We didn't use it while I was there.
So when you were doing training, did you use some other facility?
We used it inside the fire station. take in mind it was winter, when I started, and we really didn't get outside much because of the weather.
Fire Station 2, what needed to be done at Fire Station 2?
Fire Station 2 was relatively in good shape. They had just put some money into it and remodeled the kitchen, and they made a boardroom for the board. But it needed some repairs. They didn't finish the remodeling that they did. They needed some repairs back in the rooms that they had made over the years for the bunk rooms. And shortly right before I left, they had a water pipe freeze and break and destroyed a lot of it, destroyed all of the new remodel they did for the boardroom. So we had to take a lot of that out, and that was right when I was leaving. So I don't know what they did after I left. I don't know if it's even been remodeled yet. I don't know that answer.
Okay.
And I know the insurance company got involved, and I know they got an insurance money for it, but I don't know what they've done after that.
Okay. All right, let's look at what finances were like at that point. So at the end of 2020, there's about $140,000 that's not encumbered or allocated for any use. What do you mean by that?
That means that's the amount of cash that they had after all they paid all their bills, and that they were carrying over from year to year.
And then you say that it'll lower to about 85 to 90 by the end of fiscal year 2020. What was happening that you go from 140 to 85 to 90?
I'm not 100%. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I know they were over budget on some things, and I didn't know where they were going to land at the end of the fiscal year. So that was what I projected them to have if they spent everything that was in the budget.
And that didn't include the money for fixing up the fire stations or replacing equipment.
No.
Okay. All right. Audit. So what's this about the district needs to complete the audits for fiscal year 2019 and 2020? What was happening?
Well, when I got there, the audits weren't complete for those 2 fiscal years, and that they needed to do it. And I don't know if they got those done yet or not. They were working on fiscal year 18 when I got there. And so I don't know if 19 or 20 got done.
Okay.
It's the year-end financial audit.
All right. Thank you. So you've done willow work for Western Cass, Hillier. I mean, how does the district, how do they replace equipment like you're talking about? When you're talking about how their amount of cash was going to drop by about 1/3 in just that year, how can they ever replace the equipment that you're talking about being replaced?
Object on foundation that calls for speculation. Go ahead and answer if you can.
In my opinion, to replace the fire trucks, the 1.2 to 1.4 million on the budget of their size, they would have to go to the voters and ask them to pass a bond issue so they can get the money up front and then pay it back over years. They'd have to raise their debt levy to generate enough cash to pay that yearly payment on the bond. Is the only way. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's the only way you said.
That's the only way that I know that they could, that a entity like a fire district can raise money to pay for large purchases.
Does Belton have to do that as well, or do they have another mechanism?
Object to relevance. You can answer if you can.
Yes, we asked voters to pass bonds for large amounts of money. We just asked them to pass a $60 million bond for water line replacement.
Okay. Do you know whether any of your recommendations in that document have been acted upon?
I do not know.
You know, at the time that you were the interim chief at Western Cass, did Western Cass have what were called mutual aid agreements with any other fire departments?
Yes, I never looked at them because I just hadn't gotten to that point. But it's most common for fire districts and fire cities with fire departments to have mutual aid contracts.
And was there such a contract between Belton and Western Cass?
I know there was because of my time as a fire chief in Belton, but I never saw the copy in Western Cass, but I assume they had it because of it being signed by Belton.
So did there come a time when the city of Belton canceled that agreement?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was?
Roughly the November of 22.
And did you go to a meeting of the board of Western Cass in August of 2022 and discuss mutual aid agreements?
Yes.
So what was the nature of did you speak?
No,
Who spoke for the city of Belton?
the fire chief,
And
John Sapp.
did the city of Belton make a proposal at that meeting?
We did.
And can you just kind of summarize what the proposal consisted of?
I believe it was several options. One was like a contract for service that we would take over Western Cass Fire on a yearly fee. And then some other, I'm trying to think, it's been a little bit since that. The other one was a more of a fee for service per call. Like if we came down, we would charge you this. I don't remember the details and the amounts. I don't have that in front of me, but it was either we take the district over and you pay us a yearly fee, or that if we were going to still respond, that we would respond for a fee per call based on what was responding and how many firefighters were responded.
Does Belton have one of those types of agreement with some other fire protection district?
Yes, we have a service contract with Mount Pleasant Fire District. It's a yearly fee, and we provide fire protection services.
So they don't operate anything on their own. You do it all for them?
Yeah, we do it all for them.
Okay. So back to that August 24th meeting, did you tell the Western Cass board that you're going to end that mutual aid agreement, the existing one?
I don't remember when we told them that we were going to end the contract. I don't remember it was before the meeting or after the meeting. But we did send them a letter that says we were ending our mutual aid contract with Western Cass Fire Protection District.
So why?
Because when I was a fire chief, we were always responding to Western Cass with no help in return. And I always thought it was not fair to the citizens in Belton that the citizens of Belton were paying for fire protection for Western Cass Fire Protection District. And when I became mayor, I had a little more authority to end that program. And so that's what I presented to the council, and they supported that decision.
So was Dolan or West Dolan, West Dolan, were they represented at that meeting too? That one in August?
I don't remember that. I don't have that knowledge.
Okay. So what do you recall of what you observed at that meeting about how the board in Western Cass was operating?
They did some things that I didn't think were correct. I don't have that in front of me. I don't remember, but you know, they added stuff to the agenda, you know, at the time of the meeting, which I don't believe you can do. A bunch of other stuff, and obviously I don't have that in front of me to answer that question 100%. But just some of the stuff they did, you know, I think at one time several of the members were zooming in, and at one time they just completely cut the members, the directors, not the directors off from the meeting. They shut the Zoom feed off, which I thought was kind of, you know, illegal probably and unethical, you know, to shut members out of the meeting.
How'd they seem to deal with the citizens who were there?
Object to relevance. You can answer if you can.
I don't remember 100%. I know there were some heated arguments and stuff, but I don't remember the exact extent of it.
So sitting where you are today as the former chief of or fire chief, now mayor of Belton, do you have any concerns about the qualifications of the staff at Western Cass?
Object to relevance and to foundation.
I do. With my history in the fire service, yes, I do.
So why would you, I mean, if you're working with Belton, why would Belton care about the qualifications of folks from Western Cass?
Because if they were at a fire together, you want everybody to be trained, you know, at least state certified to be trained. So you can rely on their abilities. So
back to this this August, you said that there was an offer made of or maybe more than one proposal there. You know, what happened to that? What happened after you made the proposals to Western Cass?
It's my understanding that Western Cass did not accept either proposal.
Okay, so did the city council in Belton ever take action on any of those proposals, either proposal?
No, because we never got direction from Western Cass on what they wanted to do.
So do you recall when the existing agreement expired?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
So if there's not an agreement, will Belton go out and address incidents, fire incidents in Western Cass?
Technically, that we should not, but if it happens, it happens. I know that we have a duty to respond for EMS calls given to us by the state. So we will respond on all EMS calls in that district. And we will take an ambulance, and sometimes we will take a fire truck with us. If those units are still in the district and they come across a fire, they are going to stop and extinguish the fire the best they can. Now, whether we get dispatched down there or not, you know, I can't answer that question. If we're going, I stressed to the city manager and that I didn't want us doing that until we got some type of agreement with them, with the board. But like I said, if we're down there on an EMS call and we're coming back and we see a fire, I would hope that they would not drive past the fire, and I hope they would stop and extinguish that fire.
By they, you mean the city of Belton staff?
Yes, yeah. If they're driving back on Holmes Road back in the city and they see a house on fire, they're going to stop and put that fire out.
Okay. So Is there currently pending some kind of proposal to from Belton to Western Cass?
Yes, we have, from my understanding, that the fire chief has tried to negotiate a contract for services, not a mutual aid agreement. And that was presented to the council, and we've taken our first action on that.
What do you mean your first action?
Anything that the council does has to have two readings. First reading and a second reading before it can be passed as ordinance. And we've taken the first reading, and it's.
And is there a schedule of some kind for taking the second reading?
Yeah, it'll be at the next scheduled meeting, which is I don't have my calendar in front of me. I believe the 28th of February.
So meantime, are you expecting Western Cass to themselves agree to it?
Yes, that's the current, after we took our first action on it last Tuesday night. We wanted the fire chief to take it to Western Cass because they haven't approved it, and we wanted them to approve it before we approved the final reading of it.
So I think when you were speaking the other night in your city council meeting, you expressed a concern that about the payment issue, about whether you were subsidizing Western Cass. Do you recall that?
That was talked about, and I mean, that's still my belief, is that we are subsidizing the Western Cass Fire Protection District for fire service for their citizens. The citizens of Belton are. That's still my belief,
So
even with this new agreement.
what other concerns do you see that either prompt the new agreement or would exist despite the new agreement?
Repeat that.
Let me do it this way. Why, if you would in some circumstances help in Western Cass without an agreement, why do you want an agreement?
To make it official, to have an understanding that we're not going to do it forever for free, that we want a system set up that ensures that the city of Belton is compensated for their actions and delivery of service.
Did one of the proposals that you made last year, did it put some kind of criteria in place that Western Cass had to meet? Would it have put criteria in place?
Yes, I don't remember the exact numbers, but a criteria that they had to respond so many firefighters to a scene a certain percentage of the time. But I don't remember the numbers and the time frame. I don't have that in front of me.
But they didn't accept that proposal. Is that what
No.
you're saying?
No.
Okay. Do you think they could have actually met those criteria?
Objection, calls for speculation, lacks foundation.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't, with the amount of firefighters they had at the time, which was none to my knowledge at that August meeting, no, they couldn't have done it with the amount of firefighters they had then, no.
Okay. So is there a time limit or any criteria in this new proposal?
Yes.
So what does the new proposal require other than just payment?
I think it requires them to respond. I believe that's the same as what it was at the last agreement, but I'm not 100% sure.
So
I can't.
So why is that important? That time for response?
To show that when the conversation with the city manager and the fire chief, it shows that their fire district is trying to put an effort into providing service on their own and not relying on us 100%.
Okay. Does, do you either, I mean, do you think there's any kind of a liability concern that Belton has if you operate without an agreement?
Relevance, you can answer if you can.
I'm sorry, what, wait a minute, wait. Can I get the objection first and then you can start your answer?
Object to relevance, but he can answer if you can.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney. I can't answer that question.
Do you have any concerns about the way in which Western Cass has approached working out a solution to the lack of support from Belton and its own lack of training or of trained personnel?
Lacks foundation, objection, answer if you can.
To me, if I was in their position, I would think that they would want to try to get some type of agreement with the surrounding fire protection districts in the city of Belton to help them. But after they refused both of those offers last August, you know, I didn't understand that. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. I suspect Mr. Racine has some.
I do. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Layton, would you mind putting that document back up and sharing your screen again?
Sure.
We're going to kind of be all over the place, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to make this as cohesive as I can.
All right.
I didn't write it down. Tell me again, sir, when did you serve as the interim chief in Western Cass Fire Protection District?
I believe it was November of 20 to February of 21.
Okay. And is there a reason that this document that we've been looking at today that's on our screen, that it wasn't dated or signed?
No, I don't have a reason for that at all. I know it was attached in an email to the board president at the time, but I don't know why I never signed it or dated it. Now that you say that, I didn't even know that we didn't do that. So I didn't even notice that. So no.
Do you have a recollection in that 3-month tenure that you served as interim chief when this document was drafted? Was it toward the beginning, toward the end?
Towards the end, sometime in February.
Okay. And do you recall who was on the board of directors that would have received this?
Objection. He may know who's on the board of directors, but I don't know.
Well, okay, let me break the question up. You said earlier, did you send this in an email to your recollection to the directors of the district in February of 2021?
I believe that's correct. Yes. I'm not 100% sure whether I just sent it to the board president or whether I sent it to all 5 of them. I don't recall that.
Okay. And do you recall who the board members were in February of 2021?
Yes. Terry Magelson was a board president, Sue Hosterman, Carrie Van Meveren. I'm slipping for some reason on the other 2. Can't remember the other 2.
Was Darvin Schildknecht on the board at that time?
No.
Do you know how long Miss Van Meveren had been a board member?
No, I don't remember that.
But she was on the board when you identified the items in the district that you thought could be improved, correct?
Correct.
And John Webb and Marty Hardman were not on the board at that time, correct?
Correct.
Do you have outside of having served as interim chief while she was on the board, do you have a personal relationship with Miss Van Meveren?
No, I do not.
Do you socialize with her?
No, I do not.
You ever have lunch meetings with her?
I've had lunch meetings, but they're professional about the district.
During the time you were chief or after that?
Both.
Okay, after you were chief, tell me about your meetings with Miss Van Meveren.
It was one or two meetings. I don't recall what we talked about. It was about what was going on with the district and that's all I recall. I don't remember any details. They were some time ago.
And did she initiate those meetings or did you?
She did.
And during those meetings, did she complain about any of the other board members?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So when you say what was going on with the board, she just wanted to have a meeting with you to tell you what was happening in the district.
And asked, yes, and asked my opinion on what was going on and what I believe should be done.
During those meetings you had with Miss Van Meveren, did you ever discuss mutual aid or service agreements between Belton and Western Cass?
I don't recall.
Did you take any notes of those meetings?
No, I did not.
Would they be on a calendar anywhere?
The days of the meetings might be on my calendar, but I'm not 100% sure.
If we asked the city attorney to run those down for us, could you provide those?
Yes.
Have you talked to Miss Van Meveren about this litigation?
Yes,
What have you discussed with her about this litigation?
just my recollection of everything, kind of what was in the document that I created for this district. And trying to think what else. I think that's close to everything, just whether they should be doing this or whether they shouldn't be doing this stuff.
So would those have been in-person meetings, telephone meetings, email correspondence, some combination?
Probably telephone.
And who initiated those calls?
She has.
And would that have been a phone call to your cell phone or to your office at the city?
My cell phone.
Has Miss Van Meveren asked you to take any action in your capacity as the mayor of Belton with respect to any city business related to the Western Cass Fire Protection District?
No,
Has she asked you to table any city council action that relates to the Western Cass Fire Protection District?
no,
Has she ever discussed that with you?
no,
Have you ever had any conversations with Darvin Schildknecht about this litigation?
no,
Has he ever been present with Miss Van Meveren, to your knowledge, when you've had discussions with her about the litigation?
not to my knowledge, no.
Since let's say since April of 2022, how many board meetings have you attended of the Western Cass Fire Protection District?
Just one.
And was that the one you testified about in August or September?
Yes, I believe that was around the time frame. Yes.
All right. And I know you're not in charge of the operations of the Belton Fire Department anymore, but do you have any knowledge in your capacity as mayor of how many calls for mutual aid Western Cass has made to Belton since October of 2022?
I do not have that information. No.
Are you aware that they've made any request for mutual aid to Belton since October of 2022?
I don't have that information either. I can't answer that.
The chief didn't mention that Tuesday night in the city council meeting?
If he did, I don't recall. He may have, but I don't recall that.
And with regard to the document that's on our screen, the memo that you prepared, do you have any firsthand knowledge as to whether any of the items that you identified have been addressed or not by the Western Cass Fire District?
No, I do not.
All right. So it'd be fair to say that this was a snapshot in time in February of 2021, which is 2 years ago, correct?
Yes,
And it may be that situation is completely different. This document's not relevant to anything, correct?
it could be, yes.
And I believe you testified that your frustration, both as chief in Belton and also as the mayor of the city, was that essentially City of Belton Fire were running calls into the Western Cass Fire District at the city's expense because the Western Cass did not have any firefighters. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. They had firefighters, but again, when I testified earlier, they didn't live in the city or didn't live in the district, so it took them time to get there, and a lot of them had jobs, so they couldn't respond anyways. So that's inherent why we had to respond, is because we were a paid staff when we're staffed 24/7.
If the Western Cass Fire Protection District has made strides to secure full and part-time employees, that they're answering their own calls, would that change your attitude at all about a services agreement or a mutual aid agreement with the Western Cass Fire District?
Yes, it could. If they could show that they were responding to a certain percentage of calls, like we tried to put in that first agreement, and then what I believe is in the second agreement, I believe, my mind could change, but I'm afraid that they've done it so long, that they relied on us so long that's going to continue. And I know in the past they tried to pass a levy to try to increase their revenues to higher staffing part-time and some full-time, and I know the citizens turned that down.
And the bottom line is you just don't have the information sitting here today to know what changes, if any, Western Cass has made in their operations, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned the first agreement and the second agreement. I want to make sure we're all on the same page about those proposals or those agreements. So is the first agreement when you and Chief Sapp attended the Western Cass board meeting in, I'm sorry, again, I can't keep it straight, August or September of 2022?
Yes,
And do you recall when that was?
I believe it was August. I don't remember what date in August, but I believe it was August of last year.
Okay, and to your knowledge, that proposal that the city of Belton brought to Western Cass was not accepted by the Western Cass Fire District, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then you're mentioning a second agreement. Is that the one that you were testifying about that is being considered and first action was taken by the city council a few nights ago?
Yes.
All right. Did you attend the December board meeting with Chief Sapp at Western Cass Fire in 2022?
No, I believe the only meeting I've ever attended was August of last year. Since from the time I left until I became mayor, the only meeting I've ever attended was, I believe, in August of last year.
Were you aware that Chief Sapp attended a meeting at the Western Cass Fire Board in December 2022?
No,
Were you aware that Chief Sapp took a proposal on a services agreement to that board meeting?
no,
Were you aware that the Western Cass Fire Board approved that services agreement in December 2022?
no, I was not.
Did Chief Sapp bring that agreement back to the city council or to your office for consideration?
He brought one, like I said, that we addressed last Tuesday night. I don't know if it's the same one that you're talking about in December. I can't answer that question. I don't know that knowledge.
Were you aware that both the city attorney and the city manager approved an agreement in December of 2022 that Chief Sapp took to Western Cass and that Western Cass approved?
Objection, no foundation.
I'm just asking if he's aware.
No, I'm not aware.
So you were never shown the document in December of 2022 that both the city attorney and the city manager had approved.
No,
And that document never landed on your desk for inclusion at a city council meeting for the city's approval.
no,
So you're not aware that Western Cass already accepted a proposal from the city of Belton in December of 2022.
no, I'm not aware of that.
Did you keep that document from being included on an agenda at the city council meetings?
No, I was not. No, I didn't because I wasn't aware of it.
And the discussion this past Tuesday evening on the 14th of February at the city council meeting in Belton was a decision made that the city would not offer any kind of service agreement to the Western Cass Fire District until this litigation was resolved.
Repeat that question, please.
At the February 14th, 2022 city council meeting in Belton was a decision by the council that no agreement would be presented to Western Cass Fire for services or aid until this litigation that you're testifying in today was resolved.
Objection, no foundation.
No, we passed the first reading of that proposal and was under the understanding that Chief Sapp was going to take it back to Western Cass Fire for their approval before we had the final reading on it.
And do you remember this litigation being part of the consideration and discussions at the city council meeting about the presentation of that document?
Say that again.
Do you remember that this litigation, Ms. Van Meveren's lawsuit against the district, was that part of the discussion or the consideration of the city council in their timing and presentation of the agreement to Western Cass Fire?
It was brought up, but I don't know if it had anything to do with timing. It was brought up by me because I didn't want to agree to something for the district and for the city while there was litigation going on.
Why is that?
Because there's no understanding what the outcome of that litigation is going to be.
Well,
And who, I didn't know who we were negotiating with.
to your
if we were-
knowledge, or do you know how many directors are on the board of directors at Western Cass today?
Yes, I do.
Do you know how many there are?
5.
And if the board of directors passes and approves an agreement at a meeting, doesn't that bind the district?
Yes, I would think so. Yes.
So why would the,
But well, go ahead.
so why would the litigation in your mind change the fact if the board approved an agreement?
Because at the time of the meeting on Tuesday night, I was not aware that they approved an agreement.
Okay, I'm talking strictly about the new agreement that the council has approved going forward.
Exactly.
Is the litigation a concern in your mind for any agreement reached with Western Cass Fire District?
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that the existence of this litigation is holding up reaching an agreement between Belton and Western Cass Fire in your mind?
In my mind, it should be, but I'm just the mayor, so I don't run the day-to-day operations of the city. So if that's what the city manager wants to do, that's what he did and then presented us to us Tuesday night.
And something Chief Sapp said in his deposition, I want to make sure I understand, because you may have said something different. The city of Belton's EMS responsibilities extend to the Western Cass Fire Protection District, to my understanding. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know the exact outline, but I believe it is the city of Belton, and then it's the Mount Pleasant Township, and then I believe it's the Union Township is the area that we're required to cover by state. Whatever in the state, I don't know the term for the state, but city of Belton, Western or Mount Pleasant Township, and then Union Township.
So EMS service and response really isn't an issue, where the only concern is fire protection. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And one last question, you were asked about if you had concerns about training and personnel and staffing at Western Cass Fire in terms of sending Belton personnel on a mutual aid response into that district. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Are those concerns any different than you would have with any other agency where you sent Belton responders?
If I knew the situation going on with that district and were comfortable with that district, no, but knowing the history of Western Cass, that's the issue I have of untrained personnel.
And well, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Don't have any further questions? Mayor Larkey, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Signature.
Yes,
Electronics fine.
yes.
So does that mean you want him to read and sign?
Yes.
If that's up to, actually, that's up to him. Patrick, Mayor Larkey, do you want to read and sign or not?
I don't, Mayor, I don't think you need to read and sign.
All right.
Okay, and same orders as before?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? There were a few new names this time. I think one, they were board member names, Michelson or something like that.
I think, Aaron, that was when you first came up, it had another name with your name.
Terry Magelson is the name I used.
Oh, the name you used. I'm sorry. I thought it was referring to the appearances. Yeah.
That was the board president when I was the interim fire chief.
Okay. I think there was one more name mentioned, right? Or when that discussion was going on. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
If you didn't cover Tuesday, it might have been Sue Hosterman.
I have Hosterman.
Okay.
Was it Darvin Sheldnick? That one's kind of hard to spell.
Yes, that's it.
Probably it.
And
Darvin. Last name is SCHILDKNECHT.
Okay, that is all. Thank you so much.
thanks, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
You too.